Doctor, you mentioned the drug effects, Zoloft had an effect, and SSRIs might have an effect. Is there a difference when you're treating someone and they're taking medications between being over-medicated and having an adverse reaction to medication?
Yes.
And what is the difference?
Well, when we think about side effects, that is an example of a medication having a response. Now, sometimes we have side effects when we're not necessarily over-medicated, but we put up with those side effects. When there is too much medication, certainly we can experience those side effects. For example, over-sedation, or there are some medications that can cause stimulation, so people are not able to sleep. An adverse reaction is much more serious. An adverse reaction could be, for example, an allergic reaction that could cause death, or some type of reaction that you don't see in most people, but has been reported. So there is a difference between side effects, no matter how difficult they are, and what we would call adverse effects, which can be extremely serious.
And in your review of the records of the medications that the defendant was prescribed from September through December, did you see any evidence of her having adverse effects from the medication?
Well, the insomnia secondary to the Zoloft was very concerning to me, and it would mean not just cutting the Zoloft back, but stopping it. I would say that the Zoloft was in precipitating insomnia. I mean, she reported 48 hours straight of not being able to sleep, that was an adverse effect. And an adverse effect really requires one to stop the medication.
And that is what Dr. Jennifer Tufts did with Ms. Clancy, correct? She had her stop the medication?
Correct.
And in reviewing those records again from September through December of 2022, did you see any evidence that Ms. Clancy was over-medicated?
She experienced some significant side effects from some of her medications. She was given, I think, nurse practitioner Paul gave her clonazepam, which is also a benzodiazepine, and she really had an uncomfortable reaction to that. Just woke up and felt quite confused. So she stopped that medication, understandably. Seroquel is a medication, quetiapine, that at high doses can cause some significant side effects. At lower doses, it generally helps treat insomnia. At higher doses, it can have more significant effects. And in terms of just ability to think and organize one's thoughts. However, Ms. Clancy, in December of 2022, chose at that time to continue on Seroquel, a combination of Seroquel and Valium. Nurse practitioner Gelada had suggested another medication, olanzapine, Zyprexa, which she's taking now, and Ms. Clancy asked that she continue on the Seroquel at that point and the Valium. So, you know, it's a challenge. One has side effects, but one also sees benefit in the medication. And certainly that combination at that time, I think it was around December 7th, December 9th, that was really helping her sleep. And so she asked to continue on those two medications.
So I guess when I ask about over-medication and you talk about the side effects of the medication, there seems to be a disconnect between maybe what a layperson calls over-medicated versus what the medical definition of that is. So is what you're saying that being over-medicated medically means having side effects to the medication?
Well, no, not necessarily.
So what does over-medicated mean to you in your profession?
Well, if someone were to prescribe a medication that was beyond the limit that safely can be prescribed, for example, it's possible to be toxic on, say, lithium, which is a medication that she took for a while she was at Tewksbury. And if I were prescribing, say, 1,200 milligrams of lithium twice a day, and her lithium level was toxic, as it would likely be, that would clearly be an example of over-medication.
And did you see any evidence of that scenario in the defendant's records, that she was prescribed too high a dose to make her be at a toxic level of any medication?
I think those who were prescribing for her were responding to the symptoms that she was bringing. There was a kind of a rapid increase in the dose of Seroquel, and that higher dose of Seroquel was she did not. I believe she was ultimately prescribed at 400 milligrams, and she never ended up taking that, but. As a clinician, we do our best to try and treat symptoms.
So, Doctor, did you see? Doctor, did you see, other than the Seroquel, any medications that the amount that was prescribed you would think would be over medication?
No.
And then the Seroquel itself, you said she was prescribed up to 400 milligrams, but she reported that she never took that amount, correct?
Correct.
And after her stay at McLean Hospital, she had been weaned off of the Seroquel, correct?
That's right.
And the only medications immediately after leaving McLean Hospital were trazodone and Valium, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Tufts added a medication as a result of her appointments with the defendant in January. Is that correct?
That's right.
And what was that medication?
That was amitriptyline, also known as Elavil.
And you saw that what the initial dose of that was, correct?
Correct.
What was that?
The initial dose from Dr. Tufts was 10 milligrams.
Is that a high dose for an adult?
No, it's the very smallest dose possible.
And then did Dr. Tufts increase that dose?
Yes.
And when was that?
After a week, she increased the dose from 10 milligrams to 20 milligrams.
And is that a significant increase in the dose?
No.
Is 20 milligrams a significant or large dose for an adult?
Not at all.
10 milligrams or 20 milligrams of amitriptyline, is that something you could even prescribe to a child?
Yes.
Now, doctor, based on your review of all of the records and your meetings with Ms. Clancy in your collateral interviews, did you form an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether or not Lindsay Clancy on January 24th, 2023 could appreciate the difference between right and wrong?
Yes.
And what was that opinion?
My opinion is that she did have the capacity to appreciate right from wrong.
And what do you base that on?
Well, on a number of things. Ms. Clancy had just met with her psychiatrist, Dr. Tufts, the day before. And in that discussion with Dr. Tufts, as documented, she denied suicidal ideation, and she also denied thoughts of harm to others. And also there was an ongoing conversation regarding future possible treatments, esketamine or TMS, which I spoke about yesterday, that could be employed to help her. Also, with regard to the appreciation between right and wrong, the planning involved prior to the strangling of her children, I thought was significant. The searches for distance of 3V, the searches of CVS, all done prior to her sending fairly late in the afternoon a text asking her husband if he didn't mind takeout from 3V and then adding on. So that planning, that preparatory planning, I thought was significant. The avoidance of witnesses. You know, a witness during a time when one is committing a crime can intervene, not just report, but also intervene. And so the fact that this was done without any witness present during a time where she had asked the potential witness to go on a longer errand, also I thought was significant. Concealment is another thing that I think indicated an understanding of right and wrong. I mean, the children were strangled all in the basement, and according to Mr. Clancy, the door to his office had been closed when he arrived to the basement. Timing was really, really significant in this. There was a window of time that Ms. Clancy was aware of in which she would need to kill her 3 children as well as to kill herself, which she expected would happen. She was conscious of time and told me that she had mapped out the distance, et cetera, because she didn't want her husband to be gone too long. But in this case, I think the issue of time and her husband returning, rather than being a solution for her, was a problem. And so to accomplish all of this in the course of that amount of time that Mr. Clancy was gone, I thought was significant, really showed an awareness of time. In terms of the weapons used, now these were exercise bands, but they were all near where the children were strangled. They were placed there. That's where they kept those exercise bands. And the exercise bands were nearly identical. I mean, very similar in terms of what they could do as ligatures. And so that use of weapons that were readily available and nearby also was significant to me in terms of her understanding of and planning. I did not see any evidence that she had delusions about her children, delusions as to something wrong with them or something that required them, because of a delusion, that they needed to die. I don't recall that she ever spoke about her children in a delusional way. Now,
Look, we have a question. Sure. Next question.
Were there other factors that influenced your opinion that she knew the difference between right and wrong?
yes.
And what were they?
Well, the phone call at, 5:34 in the afternoon, I thought was significant. So Mr. Clancy was at CVS, and he called his wife, and she did not pick up, she did not answer. But she called him back and had that ability to deviate from what she was doing to be able to respond, and so had the presence of mind to do that, but also to conceal from him what was going on. Locking the door is another example. I mean, certainly Ms. Clancy was aware of time and the limited amount of time to accomplish this, but by locking the door, it kept her husband from being able to enter the bedroom and therefore being able to see what had happened. So delayed that time. On arrival, her husband asked her what happened, and she did not confess. She did not tell him what had happened other than, I tried to kill myself. She also did not report auditory hallucinations, but rather said that the children were in the basement. It's my belief that she expected to die, and that by the time Mr. Clancy arrived, she would have successfully been able to take her life.
And sir, did you form an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether or not Lindsay Clancy on January 24th, 2023 had the ability to conform her behavior to the requirements of the law?
Yes.
And what is that opinion?
Well, if we look at that day, we know that in the morning she took Cora to a pediatrician's appointment. And all physicians receive training in psychiatry, no matter what specialty they go in. That's part of medical school. And so, like other doctors who had seen her who were not psychiatrists at appointments and whatever, the pediatrician also did not notice any unusual things about her. She did not, she was able to conform, right, to the type of behavior that a concerned mother would engage in. She was able to drive to the pediatrician's office and then back. And the day was really one of significant control. The activities that she engaged in that day, spending time with her children with Play-Doh, taking them outside to build a snowman, sending photographs of the children to her mother, to her husband on Instagram, fixing lunch, and also fixing dinner for the children. So the activities of that day were controlled, as were the activities in terms of the planning that we already mentioned. So throughout the day, I mean, she was methodical and quite controlled and organized, even in that space of time that was short. There was a lot to do in terms of killing her children and also killing herself. And I would say that the last point with regard to conforming to the law is that when she received the phone call from her husband, she did not report to him that she was in distress, that she was having hallucinations, that she needed help. So with that phone, by calling her husband back and reassuring him by the fact that, yes, she knew the medication, whatever, that helped guarantee that he would continue on the errands. Had she not called him back, it would likely, or it certainly was possible that he would be concerned enough that he would return home. And so I think the phone figures in just in terms of her awareness and conforming her behavior such that the strangling of her children could be concealed.
And doctor, did you form an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether Lindsay Clancy on January 24th, 2023, when she strangled her children, was criminally responsible?
Yes.
And what is that opinion?
Yes. It is my opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty that Ms. Clancy was criminally responsible.
Move to submit Dr. Satoff's CV as the next exhibit.
Any objection, counsel? All right, that may be